Scene 1. Zoo. The old man was bumping through the zoo in the park pickup when he spotted the body clumped outside the buffalo pen. He wheeled over, got out.
A kid! At first he could only stare at the body, then the baby bison, whose large brown eyes seemed to be watching them both. The mother came lumbering over, nodding as if to confirm, yes, a kid.
The kid looked terrible. His clothes were scraps, rags. Wherever his body showed, though, it was bony and dirty and scratched. The two bisons staring, what seemed to say, well, do something. The old man gathered his own bones and muscles as best as he could and managed to hoist the kid and get him in the pickup. He laid him on the seat, bent his legs so he could close the door. He knew he should take the kid straight to the hospital or a doctor or someplace official. Someplace right. But the pickup just sort of steered itself back to the band shell. And there he was lugging the kid into the baseball equipment room. The season was over by now, but the army green burlap bag still stood ready for the next to call, play ball. He yanked out a couple of the chest protectors and laid the kid down carefully with his head. At least he was breathing. Though it wasn't cold, it seemed as if the kid ought to be covered. So the old man took his winter jacket off the hook and laid that over him. Then he waited and watched with trembling, dusty fingers. He touched the kid's hand before.
Scene 2. The band shell.
Hey, where am I? The band shell.
The band shell?
In the back equipment room.
And you?
What about me?
Who are you?
Grayson.
Grayson? Do I know you?
Guess you do now.
He went to his hot plate, heated up some water, and made some chicken noodle cup soup.
You want a spoon? He looked as though he could hardly lift the cup. He held it with both hands and gulped it down.
Huh?
Never mind. You still hungry?
The kid flopped back down.
A little. Wait here.
10 minutes later, he was back with a Zep, a large. It took the kid less time to polish it off than Grayson to get it.
Don't eat so fast. You'll get sick. Where did you get them scratches?
Some pricker bush.
What were you doing there?
Hiding.
Hiding? From who?
Some kids.
Where? The kid pointed.
Somewhere over there, the other town.
He crossed his legs Indian style on the chest protector.
Can I ask you a favor?
Shoot.
Can we go somewhere and get some butterscotch crimpets? Grayson squawked.
Crimpets, you're still hungry?
For them I am.
Grayson threw the greasy Zep wrapper into the wastebasket. I don't know. Maybe you ought to do something for me first.
Like what?
Like, tell me your name.
It's Jeffrey Magee.
And where do you live?
Well, I did live on Sycamore Street, 728.
Did?
I guess I don't anymore.
The old man stared.
You said Sycamore?
Yes? Yep.
Ain't that the East End?
Yeah. What are you doing?
Checking if you're white under the dirt.
Neither spoke for a while. At last the kid spoke. Scene 3. Little. Tell me a bedtime story.
A story? I don't know no stories.
Sure you do. About yourself. Everyone has a story.
Not me. I ain't got no story. I ain't nobody. I work at the park.
You line baseball fields.
Yep, I do that.
You live at the Y. You drive the pickup. What did you want to do when you grew up when you were a kid?
A baseball player. Now go to bed.
I went to bed last night without a bedtime story.
I told you, I ain't got no stories.
You wanted to be a baseball player.
They ain't no story.
Well, did you become one?
Just the minors.
The minors? Grayson, the minors? You must have been good. What position did you play?
Just the pitcher.
So you're a baseball player, right?
Used to be.
What do you mean?
Well, 5 minutes before the game, I prayed, and I said, please let me win the game. But God must have faded. And indeed, maybe God did. Or maybe he only listened to the major leaguers. Because Grayson took the mound and proceeded to pitch the flat-out awfulest game of his life. His curveball wasn't curving, His sinker wasn't sinking, his knuckler wasn't knuckler. The batters were teeing off as if it were the invasion of the Normandy beach. Before the third inning was over, the scores were 12-0, and Grayson was in the showers. He was 27 years old then, and that was the closest he would ever get to the big show. He hung on for 13 more years, a baseball junkie, winding up some hot tamale league in Guanajuato, Mexican, until his curveball could no longer bend around so much as a chili pepper, and his fastball was slower than a Sonora's answer. He was 40, out of baseball, and for all intents and purposes, out of life. All those years in the game, and all he was fit to do was clean a restroom, or sweep a floor, or lay a chalk line, or far, far down the road, tell stories to a wide-eyed homeless kid. And of course, since Grayson used to be a baseball player, as what happens with a baseball, one thing led to another, and they were tossing the baseball back and forth to each other.
You gotta go to school. I do.
There were 3 stacks and stacks of books.
You know the money you give me every morning? He gives Maniac 50% or $1 every morning to get himself some crumpets. Right inside the door there were books they were selling, cases of them. All the books they didn't want anymore. They only cost 5 or 10 cents a piece. I buy them.
He showed them to Grayson, ancient, back-broken math books, flaky travel books, warped spellers, mangled mysteries, biographies, music books, astronomy books, cookbooks.
What's the matter? Can't you make up your mind of what kind of book you want?
I want them all. I'm learning everything. Look, geometry, triangles. Okay, I saw some triangles.
Okay, but can you prove it to me?
If I had a ruler.
No ruler.
So the kid proved it. Absolutely dead center proved it.
So why don't you go ahead and teach me how to read?
The story he told was not about baseball. It was about parents who were drunk a lot and always leaving him on his own. About being put in classes where they just cut paper and play games all day. Outside the classroom door, a sponge will never learn to read a stop sign. Right then and there, as if to make a teacher right, he stopped trying. The part I didn't tell you about Lucio.
Then they went to the library book sales racks and bought about 20 old picture books, such as The Story of Barbar, and Mike Mulligan's Steam Shovel, and The Little Engine That Could.
Within 3 days, Grayson had the alphabet down pat, the shapes and sounds. After a week, he could read one-syllable words, but he was reading them from memory. It took another couple weeks before he began to read and get the hang of sounding out words he had never seen before.
Sometimes he got the M and M mixed up, but that one that gave him the day out. Oh my God, what is happening? Those are sometimes something else. He didn't like them, and they didn't like him. There were only 5 of them, and they're seeming to be everywhere.
You're reading. I'm reading.
Grayson's smile was so wide, it had to be pulling sections to fit through the door.
Amen. Amen.
What's that?
Amen? What's that for? Who prayed?
I learned it in church. I used to go. You don't have to wait for a prayer. You say it when somebody says something or does something you really like.
Amen. On Thanksgiving.
Scene 4, Thanksgiving, Christmas.
On Thanksgiving Thursday, Winter kicked it in the stomach, but that didn't stop the old man and the boy from joining the 10,000 who thronged to the stadium on the boulevard to see the traditional high school football game. It was a long, cold game. By the time they got back to the baseball room, they were nearly frozen. But the freeze was good, for it made the warmth of the little apartment all the more welcome. Within 15 minutes, the space heater had the place positively tropical. While in the toaster oven, their 5-pound Thanksgiving chicken was already beginning to brown. A pair of hot plates and a squad of pots were pressed into action. By mid-afternoon, the two were sitting down to a feast of roast chicken, gravy, cranberry sauce, applesauce, SpaghettiOs, raisins, pumpkin pie, and butterscotch crumpets. They stuffed themselves silly, then collapsed listening to polka music.
Is there any paint around?
Guess so. What for?
You'll see. Can I get some and a brush?
What color?
How about black?
5 minutes later, the old man was back.
Got brown? That'll do. Fine.
On the outside of the door, he wrote in careful strokes, 101.
It was still dark when Maniac awoke on Christmas morning. Within an hour or two, the holiday was bounding down the stairs and squealing around the tinsel trees of 2 mills. Beyond the tall pines, stars glittered like snowflakes, reluctant to fall. They visited their tree. They walked the creek all the way to the zoo, meandering wordlessly throughout the snowy enchantment. Maniac whispered, "Merry Christmas."
Before the old man was finished saying one of those, Maniac was up and over the fence. They headed back home as the town awoke. Breakfast was eggnog and hot tea and cookies and curls and colored lights and love. Maniac gave Grayson a pair of gloves and a woolen cap and a book. The book did not appear to be as sturdy as the others lying around. The cover was blue construction paper and the spine, instead of being bound, was stapled. The text was hand-lettered and the pictures were stick-figured. The title was "The Man Who Shook Out Billy Mays." The author's name, which Grayson read aloud with some difficulty, was Jeffrey M. Magee. Maniac, in his turn, opened packages of butterscotch Crimbus and a spanking Snow White. Never ever used baseball. He was overjoyed. He rushed to the old man and hugged him. The old man put up with that for a second. Then he pulled away Grayson. "Hold on,"
He said. He went to one of the baseball equipment bags, reached in, tunneled down to the bottom, and came up with another package. This one wrapped crudely in newspaper.
"Hide in this in," he said. "Didn't know if you were the kind of kid sneaks looks."
Maniac tore it open and gaped helplessly when he saw what it was. To anyone else, it was a ratty old scrap of leather, barely recognizable as a baseball glove, fit for a trash can. But Maniac knew at once this was Grayson's, the one who had helped play with all those years in the minors. It was limp, flat, and the pocket long since gone. Slowly, timidly, as though entering a shrine, the boy's fingers slowly crept into it. Flex curled, cracking leather, brought it back to shape to life. The boy could not take his eyes off the glove. The old man could not keep his eyes off the boy. The chord player finished playing the Christmas polka and clicked off. For a long time there was silence. 5 days later, the old man was dead.
Scene 5. The funeral. Most mornings, Grayson would be the first person out of bed. He would turn on the space heater, visit the bench, a lavatory, and then heat up some more, get breakfast ready, and finally wake the boy with a gentle shake of the shoulder. Maniac went over.
"Grayson?" He shook the old man. "Grayson?"
He took the old man's hand. It was cold.
"Grayson?"
Grayson came to the cemetery in a wooden box. Maniac was the only member of the funeral with 7 people. These events had nothing to do with the man who once lived in the body in the wooden box.
I'm freezing my cojones off. Let's go get some donuts.
He pulled out his cigarette, lit from the glowing tip of the match.
Hey kid, yo! Kid. But he was running.
Hey, tell us who you are.
Okay.
I'm Cecil, and I play as narrator 1.
I'm Paris and I played as narrator 3.
I'm Rafe, and I play as Maniac.
I'm Jessie and I played as narrator 2. I'm Katie and I played Grayson.